Have you ever noticed how often it happens? It's 3 Sons AM. The world is quiet, the house is still, and yet your eyes pop open. You don't want to be awake, you want to keep sleeping. But no matter how many times you turn over, how many times you fluff your pillow, you just can't fall back asleep. If this sounds familiar, let me tell you something important. You are not alone. Millions of older adults wake up at the same time every night, around 3 AM, and they all wonder the same thing. Why? Maybe you've tried everything. A glass of warm milk, reading a boring book, counting sheep, even sleeping pills. But still, night after night, your body wakes you up like clockwork. And here's the part that frustrates so many seniors. No one has ever explained to you why this really happens. Doctors may say, "Oh, it's just part of aging." Friends may tell you that's normal after 60. But here's the truth. Waking up at 3 AM is not just normal aging. It's your body sending you a message. And if you don't listen, the problem can get worse. But if you do listen, if you understand the 5 real reasons behind this mysterious wake-up call, you can take back control of your nights and your mornings. So today, I want us to have a real conversation. No medical jargon, no confusing terms, just plain simple truth. We're going to uncover the 5 surprising reasons why your body keeps waking you up at 3 AM. And more importantly, I'll show you what you can do about it. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you to imagine something. Picture yourself lying in bed. The night is quiet, but instead of waking up at 3 AM, you sleep peacefully through the night. You wake up at 7 in the morning, rested, refreshed, smiling. You have the energy to play with your grandkids, to enjoy breakfast with your partner, to take that morning walk without yawning every 2 steps. Doesn't that sound wonderful? It's possible. And it starts with understanding what's happening inside your body at night. So, let's begin with the first reason, one that almost no one talks about, but it affects nearly every senior after 60. Reason 1, your liver's midnight shift. Your liver is one of the hardest working organs in your body. Every day it filters your blood, processes nutrients, handles medications, neutralizes toxins. But what most people don't realize is that the liver does its heaviest work at night, especially between 1 and 3 AM. Think of your liver as the body's midnight cleaning crew. During those hours, while you're supposed to be resting, it's sweeping, scrubbing, detoxifying, restoring balance so your body can function the next day. But here's the problem. If your liver is overloaded because of heavy late-night meals, alcohol, sugary desserts, or even long-term medication use, it struggles to keep up. And when the liver is under strain, it doesn't stay silent. It often wakes you. Some people notice they wake up hot and restless. Others wake up thirsty with a dry mouth. Some even feel sudden anxiety with no clear reason. These are classic signs that your liver is waving a flag at 3 AM saying, "I need support." I once spoke with a gentleman in his 70s who woke every night at exactly 3:07 AM. He thought it was stress, but when we looked closer, his main meal was always late, sometimes finishing dinner at 9 or even 10 PM. His liver was being forced to digest a heavy load right when it needed to do its clean-up work. Once he shifted his eating earlier and lightened his evening meals, within weeks those 3 AM wake-ups started fading. The lesson is simple but powerful. Sometimes your sleepless nights aren't in your head, they're in your liver. Support it with lighter dinners, more water, fewer toxins, and it can do its job quietly letting you sleep. Reason 2. The hidden blood sugar alarm that jolts you awake. Now let's talk about something almost no one connects to their sleep. Blood sugar. Even if you've never had diabetes, even if your doctor says your glucose levels are fine, your brain still depends on one thing to function all through the night: a steady stream of fuel. Your brain doesn't have a fuel tank. It can't store sugar for later. It runs moment by moment on the glucose in your blood. So imagine this. You go to bed at 10 hours p.m. You've had a nice dinner, maybe even a small dessert, some fruit, a cookie, maybe a little ice cream. Or maybe you enjoyed a glass of wine before bed. You fall asleep fine. But here's what happens next. That sweet food or alcohol spikes your blood sugar quickly. Your body rushes to bring it down with insulin. And sure enough, just a few hours later, your blood sugar crashes. By 2 or 3 a.m., your brain starts to panic. It doesn't have the fuel it needs, so it does the only thing it can. It wakes you up, and you don't just wake up peacefully. Often your heart is racing. You might feel anxious for no reason. Sometimes you wake up sweating or with a dry mouth or even feeling slightly shaky. People often tell me, "Barbara, I thought I was having panic attacks in the middle of the night." But what they were really experiencing was their brain's emergency alarm. We need glucose now. I once worked with a lovely woman in her late 70s. She came to me exhausted. Every night she'd wake at exactly 3:01 a.m., heart pounding, her mind racing with worry. She thought it was her nerves. She thought maybe she was becoming anxious in her old age. But when I asked about her evenings, she confessed she loved having cookies and tea before bed. We made one simple change. Instead of cookies, she tried a small handful of almonds with a slice of apple. The protein, healthy fat, and fiber kept her blood sugar steady. Within just a week, she told me, "Barbara, I'm sleeping through the night again. I had no idea it was my blood sugar." And that's what I want you to hear. Sometimes your 3 a.m. wake-up call isn't about your mind. It's about your metabolism. Your body isn't broken. It just needs steady fuel through the night. So if this sounds like you, if you wake at 3 a.m. with your heart racing, feeling anxious or restless, don't immediately blame stress. Look at what you're eating in the evening. Swap out the sweets, the alcohol, or the processed snacks. Replace them with slow, steady foods like nuts, yogurt, oats, or even a small slice of cheese with whole grain crackers. Your body will thank you. And instead of sounding the alarm at 3 a.m., it will stay quiet, letting you rest deeply until morning. Reason 3, the ancient night watch still lives inside you. Now, here's one of my favorite discoveries because it connects us to something bigger than ourselves, something ancient. Did you know that for most of human history, people didn't sleep in one long 8-hour block the way we expect to today? They practiced something scientists call segmented sleep. Our ancestors, farmers, villagers, even people living in small towns just a few hundred years ago, would go to bed shortly after sunset. They'd sleep for 4 or 5 hours. Then, like clockwork, they would wake in the middle of the night. Not tossing and turning, not panicking, just naturally awake. They might tend the fire, check on the animals, even step outside to look at the stars. Some use this time for prayer, reflection, or quiet conversation. And then, after an hour or two, they would go back to sleep for their second sleep, waking refreshed at sunrise. This wasn't insomnia. It was life. It was the rhythm of nature. In fact, in old diaries and historical records, this middle of the night period was sometimes called the watch. It was the time when the village or the family took turns staying alert, keeping everyone safe. Someone was always awake in case of danger. Now, here's the fascinating part. Those ancient rhythms are still inside us. Buried in our biology, in the wiring of our brains, is that ancestral pattern. And sometimes, especially as we age and ham sleep becomes lighter, that pattern resurfaces. So if you wake at 3 a.m., it might not be because your body is broken. It might be because your body remembers deep inside. Your nervous system is echoing a rhythm that kept humans alive for thousands of years. Now, of course, in today's world, staring at the ceiling doesn't feel helpful. You don't need to tend to fire or guard the village. But here's the key. If you understand that your 3 a.m. wake-up might simply be your body's ancient night watch, you can approach it differently. Instead of panicking, instead of thinking, "Oh no, I'll never get back to sleep," you can use this time gently. Some people keep a small notebook by the bed and jot down their thoughts so their mind can rest. Others pray, meditate, or practice slow breathing. One woman told me she used to hate waking at 3 a.m. until she reframed it as her sacred hour. Now she spends that time reflecting, giving thanks, and almost always drifts back into a second sleep. The mistake is fighting it. When you resist it, your brain becomes anxious. But when you accept it, when you see it as natural, even ancient, it loses its power over you. So the next time you find yourself awake at 3 a.m., try whispering to yourself, "This is just my night watch. My body remembers. I'll rest again soon." And with that shift in perspective, those dark hours become less frightening and more peaceful. Reason 4, the silent bladder that keeps waking you. Let me ask you something. When you wake up at 3 a.m., do you often feel the urge to go to the bathroom? If so, you might think, "Well, of course I woke up because I had to pee." But here's the surprising truth. Sometimes it's the other way around. You didn't wake up because your bladder was full. You woke up first and then your bladder signaled, "Since you're awake, let's go." This is what I call the silent bladder effect. As we age, our bladder muscles become more sensitive. They don't hold as much as they used to. Even a small amount of urine can trigger the signal, "Wake up, bathroom time." Add to that the fact that many seniors are on medications, blood pressure pills, diuretics, even some heart medications that increase nighttime urination, and suddenly your sleep becomes interrupted night after night. But here's the part no one explains. Sometimes the bladder is not really full. It's simply overactive. It's like a smoke alarm that goes off at the faintest hint of steam from the kitchen. Nothing is actually burning, but the alarm is loud enough to wake you anyway. One gentleman I spoke with in his 80s told me, "Barbara, I get up 3 times a night to go to the bathroom. My doctor says it's just my age, But when we looked closer, we discovered he was drinking 2 big glasses of water right before bed, thinking it would keep him hydrated through the night. His bladder didn't need that much, especially not at midnight. When he shifted his hydration earlier in the day, drinking plenty of water in the morning and afternoon, but very little in the evening, his 3 a.m. bathroom trips went from 3 down to 1, and often he slept straight through until dawn. Here's another story. A woman in her 70s told me, "Barbara, I feel like I wake up to go to the bathroom, but sometimes when I get there, there's hardly anything." That's the silent bladder. Overactive signals that wake you even when the need is small. In her case, stretching her pelvic muscles with gentle exercises and cutting back on evening caffeine made a world of difference. Within a few weeks, she wasn't waking at 3 a.m. anymore. Now, I want you to think about this. How many of your 3 a.m. wake-ups might actually be bladder signals? Not because you were in danger of an accident, but because your body has become more sensitive over time. The good news is, this can be managed by adjusting your evening fluid intake. By being mindful of medications that might increase urination, and by gently supporting bladder health, you can calm that alarm. And here's the bigger picture. When your bladder isn't constantly pulling you out of sleep, your nights become deeper, calmer, and longer. So next time you find yourself awake at 3 a.m., ask, did my bladder wake me, or did I wake up first? And then notice my bladder. That small shift in awareness might be the key to reclaiming your rest. Reason Thavma 5. Your emotional brain comes alive at 3 a.m. Have you ever noticed that worries feel 10 times heavier in the middle of the night? A small concern that during the day would barely cross your mind suddenly feels like a mountain at 3 a.m. This is not just in your head, it's biology. Here's what happens during the day. Your rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, helps you keep perspective. It's like the wise parent that says, "Calm down. It's not such a big deal." But at night, especially in the early morning hours, that rational brain goes offline. It's resting. Meanwhile, your emotional brain, the limbic system, stays active. And without the rational part to balance it, your emotions run the show. Fear feels bigger. Worries feel heavier. The tiniest thought snowballs into a storm. That's why so many seniors tell me, "Barbara, I wake up at 3 a.m. and my mind won't stop. I think of everything I've ever done wrong, every bill I need to pay, every doctor's appointment, every what if in the world." By daylight, those worries shrink again. But at night, with your emotional brain in charge, they feel enormous. I call this the 3 a.m. mind trap. It's like your brain has saved up all the worries of the day and dumped them on you at once, right when you're most vulnerable. Let me share a story. My neighbor Evelyn used to call 3 a.m. her worry hour. She'd wake up suddenly, her heart pounding, and immediately her mind would race. What if I get sick? What if I can't take care of myself? What if I'm a burden to my family? These thoughts would spiral until she was wide awake, exhausted by dawn. But when we talked about it, I explained something simple yet powerful. 3 a.m. thoughts are like drunk texts. Never trust them. Evelyn laughed when she heard that, and suddenly it clicked. she realized those thoughts weren't the full truth. They were distorted by the night, by her emotional brain working without its rational partner. She began keeping a small notebook by her bed. Whenever she woke with worries, she'd write them down. Just seeing them on paper made them look smaller, less scary. She also practiced slow breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Within weeks, she told me, "Barbara, my 3 a.m. thoughts don't control me anymore. I still wake sometimes, but I don't spiral. I feel peaceful again, and that's the key." Your 3 a.m. thoughts are not prophecies. They're not warnings. They're simply echoes of your emotional brain amplified by the quiet and the darkness. When you understand this, you can meet them with gentleness. Instead of fighting, you can say, this is just my emotional brain talking. These thoughts will look smaller in the morning, and I promise you, they always do. So tonight, if you find yourself awake at 3 a.m., remember you're not alone and you're not broken. Your body is simply speaking, and now you understand its language. If this video helped you, give it a like so more seniors can find it. Share it with a friend who also struggles with sleepless nights. They'll thank you for it. And don't forget to subscribe, because every week we uncover more truths about senior health, sleep, and the little changes that make a big difference in your life. You deserve peaceful nights and brighter mornings. Sweet dreams, my friends. You've got this.